You're listening to episode 211 of the D6 podcast.
I don't know anything more important in our society or in the kingdom of God than to help the church, help the family.
Discipleship is not an event, it's a way of life.
And one day it just hit me that discipleship at home was not about doing more. It was about inviting Christ into what we were already doing.
The goal of family ministry is not families sitting on the couch holding hands and singing Kumbaya. The ultimate goal is families that love God, love people, and make disciples of all peoples.
So that's why you're here. You're here to say 1 hour a week, as significant and as awesome as it is, we know that it's not enough, and we want to be intentional with every hour.
You're listening to the D6 podcast. Here's your hosts, Ron Hunter and Jeremy Lee.
This is the family ministry podcast that helps you connect the church and home. And today we're connecting you to Generation Z. Now, every time we have a generation discussion, you and I have a running joke.
Yes, we do.
I thought you were a baby boomer or a buster, or my boys are middle school age, both of them. And there's a new saying that it's not new, probably. By the time I can repeat it, it's no longer cool. But anyway, there's this thing that young kids will look at you if you're old, and they'll say, "Okay, boomer." It's like on T-shirts now. Okay, boomer. So that's my nickname at home. Every time I say something, they're like, "Okay, boomer." So
that's hilarious.
But boomers, busters, Xers, I thought you were an older generation, and you were offended by that.
I was, and I still am. But the way I'm going to explain this to our listeners, have you ever seen the president pictures before they started office and after they got out? I think doing my role has taken its toll, and I look like a guy that's 90 years old when I'm really nowhere near that. Who knows?
Not true. It's just I'm a little bit more goofy and silly, and you're a little more serious, and you are a CEO. That's kind of
we put on that hat and lose all of our personality. Is that the
no?
deal?
You just put on that hat and seem like you're older. That's all I can say about that. All right, so
get yourself out of this.
At the end of the day, we are in the same generation. That's what you tell me, at least. But
yes.
You are on the top side, and I'm on the bottom side. Happy to say,
older and younger. I wouldn't say top and bottom. Yes. But we're both Generation Xers, which by and large is between 1965 and 1976. Now, everybody has stats at different years on this, and what Leneita is going to talk about is Gen Z. And again, different people start this in different areas, but the average suggests that it started with people born in 1995.
And, God bless those millennials. They're in between Gen Z and Gen X, and they just get all kinds of abuse.
They do indeed. And
which you and I have joined in on at times.
It's
easy for us Xers to kind of tease those millennials.
Well,
because we were teased by the boomers.
I was going to say, every generation is teased by the people before or picked on. So don't feel overly picked on. However,
but I think the millennials will be super nice and inclusive to Gen Z.
They might until, I don't know, they outperform, I don't know. But they have worn it. But I always remind people, millennials are the way they are because the baby boomers and the older Xers have raised them to be that way. So before we start pointing fingers, look at the parents.
Yeah.
Okay? But however, they're all incredible generations, and they bring a lot to our organization. We could not survive without the millennials in our organization. So we're very thankful while we do have some fun with them.
Yeah, and the person that we have relied on a lot in D6 conference world to help us talk about Gen Z is Leneita Fix, and she has blessed us with her presence today on the podcast. So she's going to be kind of walking us through Gen Z, which is going to be a great gift to so many of us. So anyone who's born 1995 and after is Gen Z.
And I'm going to jump in here. There were a number of churches that missed the wave of preparing for the millennials, and they lost their opportunity. Now's the time to be all over Gen Z, because now you might not really realize what 1995 means, but fast forward now to 18 years later, that means we would be at 2003, 2004, 5, 6, 7. They're in college right now. if they're attending college. Now we're getting the ones who are just coming out of college, the young adults who have joined your church or been attending your church 2 to 4 years after. That's the oldest group. That's Gen Z, the ones just coming out of college. Do not assume they are the millennials. Do not put them in that same boat, and I think Leneita is going to help us understand how they are different and how we can begin to prepare worship and church opportunities for that generation.
Yep, and that is, if you aren't excited about this already, I mean, that's a, I don't know about you, but I need people to guide me through these things because I don't naturally think generationally, but there are very clear differences, and it's very smart as a church leader to be aware of those differences. This podcast should be dropping right around early May. I won't give a specific date because as soon as I do, it'll drop on the wrong
different day. I know.
But I will give this date because it's an important one you want people to know before we jump into our interview. Is on May 21st, the price increases for D6 conference.
That's right.
And I want to make sure you give a proper tease to anyone who's still on the fence. I actually got a text from a minister this week that said, "Hey, are you going to be at D6 conference? Because I think I'm going to go, and I'm thinking about bringing my team."
That's awesome.
And so obviously the response is, "Buddy, you better go and grab it while you can before they increase the price."
That's right. That's right. No, we are right now. I know this drops in the middle of May, but we have some of our speakers are on our website right now. And here's what I'm going to challenge you on. We're in the final stages of approving and inviting because we have an overwhelming number of applicants apply this year to speak. And as a result, I have purposely taken our team into looking for some new, fresh voices that have never been to D6 as speakers. So if you look at our website, you may be looking now going, who's this? Who's this? I've not heard them before. But we're still going to have some core voices that you're expecting in the mix. But I've tried to include a lot of people who are going to come at it and really stretch our thinking. I'm going to give you one that I think we've talked once before. Her name is Jenna, and she has done some research on the power of relationship. And that in the church, the relationship is that one exponent, that one stickiness, that one item that tends to hold. When we're talking generations with Leneita, we're sitting here thinking, well, Generation Z, they'll never connect with the Xers or the Boomers. And this research shows that if we will be more intentional with connecting and having conversations with them and worshiping together and being more inclusive there, they stick, even when they disagree with the teaching and the preaching. So yes, go to our website, check out our speakers, and get your team registered for the D6 conference because the price will go up close to the end of May.
So if you want to save your dollars.
That's right.
And here, now I always say this, I want to make sure this is heard and understood. The reason why we tell you these price breaks is a couple of things. We want to incentivize you to come on and sign up. It helps us prepare and all of those things. On the other side of things, though, it helps you bring more people. So if you sign up earlier, it costs less money. You can probably bring more people with you. And the more people you bring, the more excitement you build, the more your vision catches on for family ministry in your church. Win, win, win all the way around. So,
and your lead pastor always gets to come for free if you know the secret code. And the secret code is...
Okay, Boomer.
Hey, bring my boss. Bring my boss. So you register... the group from your church, and you toss in "Bring my boss," it will zero out your lead pastor's registration fee.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
All right, speaking of incredible, Leneita Fix is incredible, and she is going to lead us on a journey through Gen Z. Right after the break, we'll be back with Leneita Fix. All right, our friend, and I mean that, friend of D6, been here for since the beginning, or
no, not quite the beginning, but right after, definitely.
Good long time, long enough to feel like family.
I feel like I'm coming home when I come to D6. This is one of my favorite conferences, if not my favorite conference, honestly.
Our guest is Leneita Fix, and she just said Her favorite conference is D6 conference. Yay!
Yay.
That's what I heard.
It is. That's what I said.
Okay, so if you don't know who Leneita Fix is, you're crazy. But I'll just tell you anyway, she's a ministry career of 27 years spent in urban, suburban, and rural family-based ministry. Her responsibilities have included Bible-based program and ministry direction for children's ages 5 through 18, family ministry, parent ministry, leadership training, discipleship, resource creation, and speaking to a national audience. Basically, she's done a whole lot of stuff and can talk about a lot of stuff. She's the author of several books, including The Beautiful Chaos of Parenting Teens. Her greatest joy is serving with her husband, 4 children, and grandson.
Grandson, yes.
In the inner city ministry. That's awesome.
He's the cutest baby in the whole world. We'll come to blows if you don't believe me.
I completely believe you. No blows here need to be thrown. Hey, so while you're here, you're leading a seminar on Generation Z. We've talked about this before, but I need to always revisit it because we have new listeners coming in, and we want them to hear what you have to say. So could you give us a synopsis of your seminar on Generation Z?
So I actually did 2. One was, so Generation Z, if you're not familiar with what that generation is it's estimated that it's those that have been born between 95 and 97. Some say 99, but about 95 to 97 to about 2010, 2012. So contextually, that's elementary school through recent college graduates. So what my seminar earlier today was about, we're going to start seeing this generation become our young adult ministries, and how are we going to engage them in the church. And then tomorrow, I'm actually working on talking about the generation elementary through high school. So what that means is there's just a couple of markers of this generation. If anybody's heard me speak before, I really feel like we have to do something different in ministry in the way that we're approaching students. We really have to be creative in the way that we're approaching students more than any other time before. They're complete mirror images of millennials, and the oldest millennial is between 38 and 40. They're actually the parents of some of these younger Gen Z and the alpha generation that comes after them, the babies to early elementary age kids. And so we have to start treating millennials in our parent ministry, and we have to completely reapproach the way that we're talking about kids, family ministry from the context of next gen ministry. So elementary school, children's church up. So
what are characteristics of Gen Z, for those who don't know? Give us some.
Sure. Perfectionistic, petrified of failure. They're one of the most, teen pregnancy, underage drinking, underage smoking, all of those statistics are down. Anxiety, depression, suicide are at all-time highs. I just spoke at a church a couple of weeks ago that has seen 4 students in high school in their very small town take their lives in the last 16 months. And so we're seeing this incredibly anxious generation. There's a lot of fear in who they are. One of the things that we often talk about is that they're overall, all of the things that when I was a child were considered, yes, the world is scary, but these things are safe, are not safe anymore. So one of the ways to look at that is things like going to the mall, going to church, going to school, are no longer, okay, those places are safe. And so there's a lot of different, so it's the perfectionism, anxiety and fear, living in a fearful world, petrified of what's next. They're incredibly connected to technology. My understanding is that in 1995, the internet was commercialized. And so what that means practically is this generation has always had instant access to information. They've never not been, the iPhone came out when the oldest of this generation was 10. So most of them have grown up with access to a touchscreen of some kind. So instant access to information. However, we're misinterpreting that means that they don't want to interact with us. Their preferred method of communication is actually face-to-face. They would rather go deep they want to use text messaging and social media to show you things and gather and give information. But if they want to talk to you, they want to be face-to-face across the table from you, or Skyping or seeing your face. They want to see your face. So those are probably some of the easiest markers of who they are.
Great stuff. And so Gen Z, to minister to them, we have to be creative. What are some of the creative things you've seen people doing?
I think that we have to think creatively in the way that we're going to meet them in their schedules. We're all complaining, why are they not showing up to our programming? Why are they not doing these things that we want them to do? What I would argue is, are we really upset that they're not following Christ, or are we upset that they're not picking our program over other things that they enjoy? And we're never going to be able to fight if they are involved in a sport, or they're theater kids or whatever, or maybe they're taking 12 AP classes that to help them get ahead. We're never going to be able to combat that. So I think we have to create what I call radical invitation. And what I mean by that is we have to think creatively in ways that we can go to them. So what does that mean? High school, meet kids before school. I have actually found it's easier to find volunteers, because volunteers who work full-time, before school is usually before work as well. So could you give 7 to 7:30 and meet a group of kids once a week for breakfast? So we have to work around their schedules. Are we willing to, instead of complaining about the sports, be on the sidelines of the sports and offer to the team, hey, what time do you typically have to be at practice? 5:15, ask the coach, could I come at 5 o'clock for any of your players who want to, and do a 15-minute devotional once a week? And so I think those are some of the things that I'm thinking, is if we can creatively work within their schedules, as opposed to continually asking them to work within our schedules, and parents are busier than ever before as well. And so if we can work around the schedule of the family and the student, that is probably, I think, the best thing that we can begin to do to creatively keep them involved in what we're doing.
Good stuff. Okay, let's change the subject just for a second to your book, The Beautiful Chaos of Parenting Teen, which is not too far off of the subject. What are some great stories? By now that it's been out a little bit of time, I want to hear some of the stories about people who have read your book and put it into practice.
So it's really funny. I'm a lot of it naturally self-deprecating. And so whenever anybody tells me that they read the book and they really liked it, my response is, really? And so my husband told me I have to stop saying that and act confident. So I think probably just the fact that I'm able to give practical ways that people can interact with their kids, helping them understand that intentional engagement is important, and that your kids never stop looking for that intentional engagement. I think even those of us who have kids in college, we think, oh, now they're grown up, they're not going to want to intentionally engage us. It shifts in what they're looking for. They want to be able to take our opinion and not use it, but it doesn't mean that they don't want us to be speaking to their lives. So I think I've had a couple of opportunities where people have come to me, a couple of instances where people have come to me and said, hey, that chapter that you wrote about talking to our kids in the car, like that really changed the trajectory of the way I looked at things. I'm really intentionally driving around and talking to my kids when I'm driving them places now. Or I really didn't understand that I could look at a school project and think of that as an intentional way to engage my kids. And I think probably my favorite, most recent story is I had a gentleman who brought me in for a conference and said, the book changed the way I think so much that I'm going to buy one for every person who shows up at the conference, because not everybody in the room is going to be a parent, but they need to help their parents intentionally engage their kids, because this is in a generation that's hurting and hiding and perfectionistic. Who they need it at. The only people they're probably going to let down with are their parents. So they need their parents to not say, oh, you're acting like you don't need me, I guess you don't, and to actually kind of run headlong into pursuing them. And so I think that's probably my favorite, most recent story.
Good stuff. Hey, we're going to take a quick break. We're talking to Leneita Fix. We've already talked to Gen Z. We've talked about her book. And now we are going to move after the break into talking about taking kids to college, because this is something she's actually personally been doing in her parenting journey over the last few months. We'll be back right after the break with Leneita Fix.
Are you concerned about your church's future? Will it serve another generation? The Bible says He is the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and yet we often only know how to connect to Abraham. Let D6 help you connect with each generation. Your kids and grandkids are counting on you. D6 comes from the principles of Deuteronomy 6 and helps what happens in church also happen at home. Curriculum you can trust. Discipleship that connects.
And we're back with Leneita Fix. If a minister, you gave a great example, so I don't know that you need to go a whole lot further, but if we want to use this book in our ministry, help us understand with your book, The Beautiful Chaos of Parenting Teens. How can we leverage this, and what are some cool ideas how we can use it in our ministry?
So if you go onto the Randall House site, there's actually a small group study, a free small group study that you can download and use with parents. What I always say, and I've had a couple of churches that have done that and have actually contacted me and said and been excited about the way that it works. I think a couple of things. It's make sure that you're asking parents when they have time to meet. The second thing I would say is the book was written intentionally for each chapter to be a standalone way to be able to intentionally engage your kids. So don't feel like you have to do a study cover to cover. If there's a chapter, if you want to just take 2 or 3 and pull the discussion guide apart and kind of say, okay, I'm going to do these 2 or 3 things, kind of look at the chapter titles and then say, okay, these 2 or 3 things are pain points for my parents. And so I'm going to run a discussion about even just one of the topics that are in it. And then what I would say is just to really put it in the hands of parents. While it's called The Beautiful Chaos of Parenting Teens, it's really written for parents of late elementary through college. That's really who it's for. It says the word teenager on it because, you don't want this super long title that says,
teens
for
and
teens, tweens, and maybe some grandkids and all of the other people too that happen to be young and living in your house. So I think that's one of the big things that I would say is just to put it in the hands of parents and to say to them when you give it to them, listen, it's written for today's parent. You don't have to read it cover to cover. Chapter 2 of the book talks about creating family mission, vision, and values. And I almost wish, while I put it at the beginning of the book because it's something to be forward thinking about, I wish I'd put it at the end because I had a couple of friends who came to me and said, if you don't have a spouse that's on the same level with you that wants to create that, or you're a single parent and you're dealing with a blended family, I had a couple people who came and said, this is overwhelming me. And so I said, so skip the chapter. I know it's revolutionary, but stop reading it. And there are other things that chapter is not required for the rest of the book. So I think those are probably, have a discussion group, do it in a way that meets your parents' needs, do it at a time that meets their needs, and put it in the hands of parents and tell them, read whatever chapter is most helpful to you.
Okay, so as a parent yourself, you've been sending kids to college.
I have.
What encouragement would you have for parents of older high school students as they prepare to make that transition? Now that you've been through it, what would you say to them?
So contextually, so everybody knows, we have 3 biological kids that are now senior in high school, freshman in college, sophomore in college, and then we have another daughter who is 26 that is adopted. And so we knew going into these 3 years, we affectionately coined it the Trail of Tears when we were going in. And so I think going into your senior year with your student, there are a couple of things to know. First of all, you're going to grieve this year. My favorite story to tell is at Epcot, there's this little Pixar I don't know what you call it. It's a movie thing that you go into, and one of the movies is all about their shorts, and one of the shorts is this. It is called Piper, and it's about this little sandpiper and how he gets destroyed by a wave, and there are no words, but he ends up basically figuring out how to do things on his own. And we went to go see that. We sat in that ride probably about a month into my oldest's senior year. And by the end of it, I'm sobbing because I'm going, she's going to be fine. My baby will fly. She'll be okay. It'll be all okay. And she's looking at me like, Mom, seriously. Like, it was a baby bird, and it's fine. And I'm like, because my kids make fun of me that I can make an allegory out of everything. And so... But I think that's the first thing, is just be aware of the fact that you're going to cry a lot this year, you're going to grieve, and it's okay if you're excited that your kids are in this season. I think there tends to be two types of parents. There are the parents that are clinging really tightly and please don't grow up, I don't know what to do. And then there are the parents that feel guilty that they're excited about this season. Mm-hmm. It's what we started out to do. I loved the quote from this morning's session that said, when he said, we are not supposed to be, godly parents that raise godly kids. That's not our job. Our job is to be godly parents. It was something more eloquent than that, but something like that. I have the quote in my phone. And so, but my point is that our job was not to have our identities in our kids. Our job was to be, God gave us a period of time where he allowed us to join with him in speaking into the lives of our children and helping them learn how to read the blueprint that he's written for their lives. And now it's time for them to go with him, and he's going to do the building. And it's okay to be excited about what that house is going to look like. And I think it's recognizing that they're not going to knock down the rooms in that house that you helped them build, and they're not going to start over. It's going to be a great addition. And then should they get married, if that's where God leads them, then that house is going to join with this other house, and it's going to become a bigger house. And then they're going to build rooms together. And so going into the senior year, it's okay to grieve that your kids are getting, that this part of your life as a parent has changed. I kept telling people when my oldest was a senior, I'm not sad that she's leaving. I'm not sad she's not a baby. It's just shifting. And this is so different. And now I'm going to cry. I don't know if I'm ready. I really love my kids, and I like them around all of the time. I say to people all the time, I miss my kids because I really like my kids. I think the second thing, and this is hard for parents today, let your kids genuinely pursue whatever God wants for them. We have dreams for our kids, and sometimes we have to let our dreams for our kids die. And that may mean that they go farther away from home than we want them to. It may mean that they choose to go into a trade and not go to college. It may mean that they don't want to live at home, even though they stay in the same hometown. And we're a generation of parents that are more fearful than ever before, and I understand why. It's what I said before when I explained Gen Z. As a parent, I said this in my workshop earlier today, I can't guarantee that my kids will go to the places that used to be safe and not just come back safe. I can't guarantee they're going to come back alive. I can't guarantee they're going to go to the mall or the movie theater or a college campus and not get caught in a literal crossfire. It used to be if your kids went into the military, then you knew what you were getting into, but the rest of us were okay, barring a tragedy. The world is a scary place, and scary things are happening, and we as parents have to trust that we serve a God that loves our kids way more than we do, that is way bigger than we are, and wants more for them than we could ever think or imagine. And so what I would say is grieve and be excited, and that's the hard one. Go on this journey with your kids and pray it out with them, and genuinely release your grip and let them do the thing that they think God wants them to do. And I think it changes the trajectory of your own relationship with your kids.
Fabulous job, as always. I knew you'd do great, and you did. Thanks to Leneita Fix for joining us. It's been wonderful. Listen, want everybody to know that Leneita takes speaking engagements. She can come to your church, talk about generations. She can talk to parents of seniors or older kids about college, everything you've heard today. But this is one thing I will say uniquely about her. She can talk about anything, anything you have and need a speaker for, especially when it comes to the world of parents and parenting teens. You would want to connect with her. She has given me permission to give the email out where you can email and talk to her about speaking engagements. It's leneitafix@gmail.com. Hey, thanks, Leneita, for being with us.
Thank you.
Well, our thanks go to Leneita. I think, Leneita, you have broken the record. That was like your 47th time to be on our podcast.
Probably
that is
so.
Nothing but respect to you, because you always bring it with new and fresh stuff every single time.
But speaking of that, I loved your talk about sending kids off to college. Again, I know they're part of Generation Z, but that is a struggle for parents, not only financially but emotionally. And I'm so glad you guys explored that topic. Yep. I've been through there, done that. Don't want to do it again.
Don't want to pay for it
Don't
again.
want to. No.
And so anyway, thank you so much to Leneita. Reminder about, you heard us talk about it, but The Beautiful Chaos of Parenting Teens, her book is a great guide to make it through the parenting you
can find it on D6 Family or Amazon or wherever. That's you've got to get that.
And the thing I like about Leneita is she does not operate by formulas. It's talk about that relationship quotient you were describing earlier. She that's her guiding principle, which is incredible.
And I love her vulnerability. She doesn't pretend to be the perfect parent. Absolutely. And that's what she means by the chaos. Yeah.
Now, close to perfect is our guest next week,
Scott Turansky.
Scott Turansky, who has done more parent seminars than I know. I mean, the man has he's just always doing a parent seminar.
And when he opens his mouth, it's almost everything's tweetable.
There you go. He speaks in tweets.
He does.
I love that. So come back next week for Scott Turansky. You're going to enjoy that. We hope you have a great week, and we hope you have a great week of ministry.
You've been listening to the D6 Podcast. You can learn more about D6 at d6family.com.